My rich dad mocked my military career until the general asked, "That's your daughter?"
The bullet missed my left ear by 4 inches. I know because I measured it later, not out of fear, but out of habit. In the Army, you measure everything: distance to the target, elevation, wind drift, time elapsed. You measure because precision is the difference between coming home and becoming a folded flag on someone's doorstep. I am Jennifer, Staff Sergeant, United States Army, 2 deployments, 1 Purple Heart, 3 commendations I never told my father about. And the reason I never told him, because my father had already decided a long time ago that I had wasted my life. It was a Tuesday in November when my father's judgment finally had an audience. He had invited me to one of his quarterly family dinners, which is what wealthy men call the gatherings where they remind everyone in the room how wealthy they are. My father, Mickey Caldwell, had built a real estate empire from nothing. That part I genuinely respected. He was a self-made man, which meant he believed, with terrifying conviction, that every other path to success ran directly through him. When I showed up in my dress uniform, the room went quiet, not the polite quiet, the uncomfortable kind, the silence where people don't know whether to be impressed or confused, and so they default to neither. Mickey looked at me from across the marble foyer, swirled his glass of scotch, and said in front of 12 dinner guests, his business partners, and my stepmother, "You wore that here. You're not on base, Jennifer." I smiled. "Good evening, Dad." He didn't hug me. He shook my hand, the way you shake hands with someone you're closing a deal with rather than someone you raised. Dinner was the usual theater. His partners talked about acquisition strategies. His stepchildren talked about their MBA programs and their weekend homes. My stepmother, Linda, kept touching my arm with the specific kind of pity that people reserve for rescue dogs and disappointing children. Then his business partner, Gerald, asked me what I did. "Staff Sergeant," I said. "Currently assigned to Fort Bragg, 2 tour, 1 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq." Gerald blinked. "Oh, goodness. So you're in the military?" "She is," Mickey said before I could answer. He set down his fork with the careful deliberateness of a man performing patience. "She had a full scholarship to Georgetown, business, could have joined the firm. Instead," he gestured at my uniform like it was a costume, "this." "I volunteered," I said simply. "Nobody volunteers for war, Jennifer." "I did." The table went quiet again. Mickey leaned back and delivered the line he had been waiting all evening to say. "You know what a soldier's pension looks like after 20 years. I make that in a week. You threw away every advantage I gave you for a government salary and a chance to get shot at." He laughed. Some of the guests laughed too, nervously, the way people laugh when they want a powerful man to like them. I didn't laugh. I picked up my fork and finished my dinner, and I thought about a night in Kandahar province when I lay in a drainage ditch for 6 hours waiting for an extraction window, listening to my own heartbeat, and decided, not for the first time, that I would rather die doing something that mattered than live comfortably doing something that didn't. I didn't say any of that to Mickey. He wouldn't have understood it. Here is what my father had never bothered to learn about me. I had been promoted to Staff Sergeant 3 years ahead of my cohort. I had led a 12-person team through a firefight in the Korangal Valley that was later cited in a tactical training manual. I had pulled 2 wounded soldiers, one of them a 210-pound man, out of a burning vehicle under active fire. I had been awarded the Purple Heart after taking shrapnel in my right shoulder during an IED strike, and I had, after field dressing my own wound, completed the mission. Mickey thought I had wasted my Georgetown scholarship. What he didn't understand was that Georgetown had taught me how to think. The Army had taught me who I was. They are not the same education. The months that followed that dinner were the quiet kind of difficult, the kind you don't talk about because there's no single dramatic event to point to, just a steady accumulation of distance. Missed calls, short texts, holiday visits that got shorter every year. I threw myself into my work. My unit was tasked with a joint training exercise, a large-scale multi-branch coordination drill at Fort Myer in Virginia, high visibility, multiple senior officers, press access on the final day. I didn't think much of it. I didn't know Mickey would be there. Fort Myer sits on a hill above Arlington National Cemetery. If you have ever stood on that ground and looked out over the rows of white headstones stretching to the horizon, you understand in your body, not just your mind, what service costs. The training exercise concluded with a formal ceremony. Commendations were being presented to distinguished personnel. I had been told quietly by my commanding officer that I would be receiving a formal recognition for my leadership during a classified operation the previous year. I was not nervous. I had stood in more frightening places. But when I took my place in the formation and scanned the assembled guests in the viewing area, the senators, the contractors, the press, the civilian observers, I saw him. Mickey, standing in the third row in a charcoal suit, gray at the temples now, looking slightly lost. He was there, I would later learn, because one of his real estate clients was a retired general who had invited him as a courtesy, a networking opportunity. Mickey had accepted because he accepted every networking opportunity. He hadn't known I would be here. I could see the moment he recognized me, a small stiffening in his posture, a recalibration behind his eyes. He watched me stand in formation with the uncertain attention of a man trying to figure out something he should already know. The ceremony began. The commendations were presented in order of rank, ascending. When my name was called, I stepped forward. The officer reading the citation was Brigadier General Marcus Webb, 2 stars, 31 years of service, a man whose name appeared in 3 different chapters of military history books. He was not a man who smiled easily or often. He smiled when he read my citation. It took 4 minutes to read. It covered the Kandahar incident, the Korangal Valley engagement, the IED strike, the classified operation. Each line was read clearly into the silence of the assembled crowd in the shadow of Arlington's white stones. When General Webb pinned the decoration to my chest, he looked at me directly and said, quietly enough that only I could hear, "Your country is proud of you, Sergeant Caldwell." "Thank you, sir." He stepped back. The crowd applauded. And then General Webb turned to the civilian viewing area, found Mickey's face, and said in his full command voice, "Is that your daughter, Mickey?" The question landed in the silence like a stone in still water. Every head in the civilian section turned. Mickey stood very still. He looked at the general. He looked at me standing at attention, decoration freshly pinned, citation still echoing in the air. He said quietly, "Yes, sir, she is." General Webb nodded, the way men who don't waste words choose to nod instead. "You have raised," he said, "an exceptional soldier." He said it the way a verdict is delivered. Mickey found me after the ceremony. He waited until the crowd thinned, standing slightly apart from his client and the general, watching me speak with my unit. When I finally walked toward him, he didn't say anything for a long moment. He was not a man who was often without words. "How long?" he finally said. "How long what? How long has it been like that? That citation, all of that. How long has that been your life?" I looked at him, at the gray at his temples, at the slight loosening around his jaw that age brings to even the proudest faces. "Since the beginning," I said. "You just weren't watching." He flinched, barely, but I saw it. "Jennifer, I'm not angry, Dad." And I meant it. The anger had burned off a long time ago, somewhere in the dust of a foreign country, when I had realized that the only permission I had ever needed was my own. "I never did this for your approval. I want you to understand that, not as an accusation, just as a fact." He was quiet for a long time. Somewhere behind us, someone was folding a flag. "The general," Mickey finally said. "He knows you. He knows my record," I said. "That's what matters in my world. Not who your father is, not what school you attended, what you actually did when it counted." Mickey nodded slowly. I watched something move through his face, something complicated and old and long overdue. "I'm sorry," he said. He said it like a man who had practiced it once and wasn't sure he had gotten it right. "I know," I told him. We stood there on the hill above Arlington. Below us, the white stones went on and on in perfect rows, each one a name, a story, a life that had decided something was worth more than comfort. I thought about what General Webb had said. "Your country is proud of you." I thought about the 6 hours in the Kandahar ditch, the burning vehicle, the 4-inch miss beside my left ear. And I thought about this. I had never needed Mickey to be proud of me to know I was worth being proud of. But I will not pretend it meant nothing, standing on that hill when he finally was. Some fathers measure success in square footage and portfolio returns. Mickey did. And for a long time, I let that measurement make me feel small. The military taught me a different accounting system. It measures in something harder to fake. What did you do when it cost you something? Who did you carry? What line did you hold? I am Jennifer Caldwell, Staff Sergeant, United States Army. I have been shot at, blown up, frozen, exhausted, and afraid. I have also been the calmest person in the most dangerous room. I have brought my people home. I have stood at attention while a general read my name into the public air, and a father who once mocked my uniform finally went quiet. Mickey built buildings. I built something he never could have blueprinted. I built myself. And somewhere over Arlington, where the flags never stop flying and the stones stand in their perfect endless rows, the wind doesn't ask who your father is. It only asks whether you showed up. I always showed up. Jennifer,